I want to start today by asking you a question that feels, well, it feels wrong. It's almost un-American to even say it out loud. But after going through this stack of sources, I just can't shake it.
I have a feeling I know which thread you're pulling on.
I want to ask you, the listener, are your constitutional rights, the Bill of Rights, the very things we celebrate as the bedrock of freedom, are they actually shackles?
And that is definitely the hook of the day.
Oh.
I mean, most people would say the Bill of Rights is a shield. It's the only thing stopping the government from, kicking down your door.
That's exactly what I thought. But the argument in this deep dive is it's radically different. We're looking at sources that claim what we call liberty is actually a tool for something they call the global swamp.
Right.
It's basically a mechanism designed to protect the guilty, specifically the wealthy guilty, who the source calls elks.
Elks? That's a specific term from the material, right?
Yeah, it's their shorthand for the elite, the people with the money and connections to, manipulate the system. The argument is that our modern system protects these elks, while the ancient system, the righteous judgments of the Israelite theocracy, had a totally different priority.
It wasn't about rights for the individual.
No, it was about protecting the community from pollution.
It really is a collision of legal philosophies. We're comparing the modern American obsession with individual liberty against this ancient Hebraic obsession with community holiness.
And to do that, we've got a really eclectic stack. We have the story of Susanna, which is basically a legal thriller, plus some commentary on Sir William Blackstone, and some pretty heavy texts from Deuteronomy and Numbers on homicide.
So our mission is to figure out if freedom of speech is sometimes just a cover for Zamam.
Zamam. That's the Hebrew keyword for this deep dive, isn't it? It means a malicious plot.
A malicious plot, exactly. Is free speech just a cover to destroy the innocent? And did the ancient system handle these elks better than we do?
Well, let's be honest. The ancient system was harsh. It didn't have the procedural loopholes that we have today.
But the source argues that those loopholes, the ones we cherish, are exactly what allows the swamp to fester.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the case study, the story of Susanna. This is from the Apocrypha, but it's set right in the context of the Babylonian exile.
And it is the perfect narrative to test this whole rights versus righteousness theory.
The setting is crucial here. We're in Babylon at the house of a guy named Joachim. He's rich, highly honored. His house is, basically the courthouse.
And his wife is Susanna. The text emphasizes two things about her. She's incredibly beautiful, and she was trained according to the law of Moses.
And then we get the villains, two elders of the people who had been appointed as judges.
Judges, so these aren't just random thugs.
No, these are the Supreme Court justices of their community.
The text even quotes the Lord saying, "Wickedness came forth from Babylon, from elders who were judges." And these two men, they become obsessed with Susanna. They turn into voyeurs.
It's so disturbing. They're watching her daily walk. And the text says they suppressed their consciences and turned away their eyes from looking to heaven. They know better.
But they don't care. Eventually, they catch each other in the act of peeping, admit their lust, and they form a Zamam, a conspiracy.
So here's the plot. It's a hot day. Susanna goes into the garden to bathe. She thinks she's safe because she locks the garden doors.
But the two elders are already hiding inside.
They corner her, and this is where the legal trap springs. They don't just threaten violence, they threaten her reputation. They say, "Lie with us. If you refuse, we will testify against you that a young man was with you."
Which is a terrifying ultimatum, because in that culture, adultery is a capital offense.
She does the math instantly. She says, "I am hemmed in on every side." If she submits, she sins against the Lord. She loses her integrity.
And if she refuses, their testimony will execute her.
This is the part that gets me. In a modern context, she's already thinking about the trial. She knows it's her word against theirs.
And who are they? They're the elks. They're the elders. She is just a woman in a patriarchal society. She knows their status alone will crush her truth.
She chooses integrity. She screams. The elders scream back, make up their lie on the spot, and the next day, the trial happens.
And just look at this trial through the lens of modern rights. The accusers have the right to testify. They're cross-examined, sort of. They tell a consistent story. We saw her with a young man.
And because of who they are, the assembly just. They believe them.
Of course. These are the elders of the people. The source argues this is the default setting of the swamp. The powerful control the narrative.
So Susanna is condemned to death. She cries out to God, basically saying, "You know this is a frame-up."
And then enter the hero, young Daniel.
God stirs him up. As she's being dragged off to be executed, Daniel just shouts, "I am innocent of this woman's blood."
He stops the whole procession, yells at the assembly, "Are you such fools? You condemn a daughter of Israel without examination and without learning the facts."
He forces a retrial right there in the street. But here's the genius move,
He separates the two elders.
which is standard police work today, but back then it was revolutionary. He knows that a Zamam, a fabricated plot, will always have cracks in the details.
So he asks the first elder, "If you saw them, tell me, under what tree did you see them being intimate?"
The first guy says, "Under a mastic tree."
And Daniel basically says, "Okay, you just lied your head off." Then he brings in the second guy. "Under what tree?"
"Under an evergreen oak."
Mastic tree versus an evergreen oak. The lie is exposed.
But here's the critical pivot point for our shackles argument. In a modern court, if a witness lies on the stand, what happens?
The case gets thrown out. Maybe they get charged with perjury later, pay a fine, maybe, if it's really bad, a little jail time.
But usually they just lawyer up and go home.
Right. But under the decree, the law of Moses, what happens to these elders?
They get executed.
Specifically, the text says, they did to them as they had wickedly planned to do to their neighbor. This is Lex Talionis, the law of retaliation.
So because they plotted to kill Susanna with their words?
They are killed.
That seems incredibly harsh to modern ears. Killing someone for lying.
But the source would argue, was it just lying? Or was it attempted murder using the legal system as the weapon?
I see. The weapon wasn't a knife, it was the testimony itself.
Exactly. The argument here is that the righteous judgments are actually a better protection for the innocent than our Bill of Rights. In our system, the Elks can use the media, the courts, false testimony to destroy someone, a social execution, and hide behind freedom of speech or procedural technicalities. The risk for them is low.
But in the theocracy, the risk was absolute. If you swing at the innocent and miss, the blow comes right back on you.
It removes the incentive for the Zamam.
This connects directly to our next source, the witness rule. Deuteronomy 19, verse 15. One witness is not enough.
A matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. We hear this and think, okay, fair trial. But doesn't this make it incredibly hard to convict people? What if there's a murder in a dark alley and only one person sees it? Or, domestic violence behind closed doors?
You're right, it does make conviction harder. And that is a feature, not a bug, according to this worldview. The ancient system preferred to let a guilty man go free rather than risk the state or a malicious individual destroying an innocent person on a single word.
So it's a check against the lone wolf accuser.
And think about that global swamp concept the source brings up. How does the modern media destroy people? Usually it starts with one anonymous source, one whistleblower, one accusation.
And the headline runs, "The reputation is ruined before any trial even starts."
The source argues that as lawlessness. Under the decree, a single witness, no matter how credible, no matter if it was the high priest himself, had 0 legal standing to convict. The case stops before it even starts.
Which brings us to the Blackstone commentary by Herbert W. Titus. He's talking about Sir William Blackstone, the giant of English common law.
Titus takes us back to the foundational philosophy of law. Blackstone didn't just think the Bible was a good moral guide. He argued that all valid human law is derived from God's revelation.
So what happens if a legislature passes a law that contradicts the Bible, say a law that allows conviction on a single witness?
Blackstone would argue it isn't bad law. It is void ab initio. It is not law at all.
That is a radical claim. That means, in this view, a huge chunk of our modern legal code might technically be void?
If it contradicts the divine pattern, yes. Blackstone's view was that judges don't make law, they discover it, and if you discover something that violates the higher law, they've made a mistake.
The source frames this as the difference between the rule of law and the rule of judges.
Right. If the law is whatever the Supreme Court says it is today, that's the rule of judges. And the swamp loves that because judges can be influenced. But if the law is fixed by a divine decree, the Elks can't change it. They're subject to it.
Which brings us to the one thing the Elks have that allows them to bend our modern rules. Money.
Section 3, Kopia.
Kopia. It means ransom.
And in a legal context, it's a payment to deliver a guilty party from a just punishment.
In modern English, bail, settlements, plea bargains.
Let's look at the friction here. You probably think bail is a good thing.
Absolutely. It's part of innocent until proven guilty. You pay the bond, you get to go home to your family while you wait for trial. That's liberty.
But look at the disparity. If you are a billionaire elk, What is $1 million bail?
It's pocket change. You're free.
And if you are a working-class guy who's been falsely accused?
You stay in the cage.
The source argues that our system of rights has monetized justice. We've created a system where the wealthy can literally buy their way out of consequences. They can hire the legal dream team to delay. They can pay a settlement to make the charges just vanish.
And the ancient decree.
Numbers 35-31. Do not accept a ransom, a cuppier for the life of a murderer who deserves to die.
It's just a hard stop, no money.
It creates a radical equality. If you commit murder, it doesn't matter if you can build a new wing for the hospital. You die. You cannot use your wealth to bypass the penalty.
That is profound. You cannot monetize human life.
Exactly. The argument is that by allowing plea bargains where a murderer pleads down to manslaughter for a shorter sentence, we are essentially putting a price tag on the victim's life.
Yeah.
We're saying justice is negotiable.
And the theocracy said, no, justice is fixed.
And this isn't just about fairness. This leads to the metaphysical core of this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
Why were they so rigid about this? Why couldn't they just take the money, use it for the poor or something?
Pollution.
Numbers 35-33. Do not pollute the land where you are. Bloodshed pollutes the land.
This sounds so strange to us. We think of pollution as, smog or oil spills.
But in this worldview, moral crimes, specifically shedding innocent blood, create an actual spiritual toxicity in the geography, in the land itself.
So if a murderer walks free because his lawyer found a loophole in the Bill of Rights,
the land remains polluted. The blood of the victim is still, to use the Genesis terminology, screaming from the ground.
This completely reframes the shackles argument. If the Bill of Rights prevents us from punishing the guilty because of a technicality or suppressed evidence or procedural delays, then the Bill of Rights is effectively a permit to pollute.
That is the source's contention. The decree was designed to keep the land clean. It sacrificed the rights of the guilty individual to preserve the holiness of the community habitat.
It's the difference between a libertarian worldview and a holiness worldview.
And the source asks, look around at our society. Does it feel clean? Or does it feel like the global swamp is rising? They would argue the swamp is just the accumulation of unpunished corruption.
Now we have to address the exception. Because not all killing is murder. What if it's an accident? I'm chopping wood, the axe head flies off, hits a guy. I didn't plot, there was no Zamam.
Right, this is the city of refuge system. You aren't executed, but you are not free. You have to run to a designated city, and you have to stay there.
So you're under house arrest.
For life. Or until a specific event happens. And this is the part that is hardest for modern minds to grasp. But it's crucial to the theology of it all.
The death of the high priest.
The manslayer goes free only upon the death of the high priest.
Why? I mean, what does the high priest have to do with my accident?
Think of the high priest as the spiritual lightning rod for the entire nation. He bears the charge of the nation's holiness.
Okay.
The land has been polluted by the bloodshed, even though it's accidental. Someone has to pay. The debt must be settled to clean the land.
But the killer didn't deserve to die.
Right. So the high priest's natural death acts as a substitution. It's a form of righteous copter. His life, which belongs to the whole nation, is accepted as payment for the accidental blood.
So the ledger is balanced.
Yes. And notice the principle. Someone always pays. Either the murderer pays with his blood or the high priest pays with his. You cannot just move on or get over it. The pollution is real and must be dealt with.
This makes our modern system look, cheap.
It makes it look like we don't take life seriously. We treat crime as a bureaucratic annoyance to be managed, rather than a spiritual rupture that must be healed.
So let's bring this all the way back to the beginning. We asked if our rights are actually shackles.
And if you look at it from the perspective of the Elks, the wealthy elite, they love our rights. They love the delays, the bails, the ability to control the narrative with a single witness in the press.
But for the innocent, for someone like Susanna, those rights were a death sentence.
For her, the decree, the harsh, immediate, no-nonsense investigation by Daniel, was the only thing that saved her.
It really does flip the script. We usually think theocracy means oppression and constitution means freedom.
But the source suggests that constitutional rights have become the shackles that bind us to a corrupt system, preventing us from cleaning the land. While the decree, by binding the judges to strict truth and the people to strict consequences, actually created a space where the innocent could breathe.
It just comes down to what you value more. Do you value the procedure, or do you value the result?
Daniel didn't care about the procedure of the elders. He cared about the truth. mastic tree or oak tree?
So here is the thought I want to leave you with. We fight tooth and nail for freedom of speech. It's sacred to us. But if false testimony is a form of speech,
And if that speech can destroy an innocent life?
is our tolerance for lies actually a shackle on the truth? If you were in Susanna's garden, trapped by powerful men with a malicious plot, would you want the Bill of Rights and a media circus? Or would you want the decree?
That's the question.
A lot to chew on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.